you spotlight yourself, you'll be the main person. Like you'll be the one recorded rather than everybody else.
Okay, yeah, I've got a pin in. That's it, yeah.
Spotlights is the one that for the recording though. Yeah.
Okay. Let
Do you
me
see spotlight?
uh more. I can't find it right now, but yeah.
Well, then pin will have to do.
People have to do. Yeah. So, hello, if you're watching this, maybe for that introduction, we're just figuring out a bit of tech things here. So today I'm going to be talking about this really amazing blue moon in Capricorn. We'll have a look at the astrology of that, and I feel like I'm receiving this blue moon through something very specific around the divine feminine wound. And so I kind of sometimes wake up with the voice of my higher self said something like, what we are doing here today is we're healing the Holy Spirit of the divine Trinity. So this kind of ancient divine feminine energy of whole galaxy of eternal time that has become splintered. And so we'll be talking about some of the dark goddess asteroid placements in this blue moon that are really kind of coming forward and and just some of the story of how I'm experiencing that. So that I hope in the storytelling will be some of the medicine of this. So I wanted to begin though with an attunement. One of the huge things that's happening right now is the planet Uranus, the liberator, and Mars, who helps really break free that Mars energy. They're both conjunct a star called Algol, and this star is called the Eye of Medusa. And it's also connected with Lilith, who we'll talk about with the reading. So I know some of you are busy getting ready, but I'm just going to tune in and invite you to tune in to the heavens. Tune in to dark energy out there, it's incredible stars, planets, moons, whole world out there. And it's a cosmic story that is being created. And then that cosmic story is embedded in us. It becomes part of our living reality and how we embody new code, new wisdom. So today, the star Algol, the eye of Medusa, it's an eye that traditionally has been very threatening, an eye that freezes life. It's kind of a dangerous force. It's a kind of anger at injustice. Medusa was treated very badly, actually, by many people. She was cursed with this eye by the goddess Athena. because she was raped in Athena's temple, so it wasn't her fault. It happened, and she got punished for something really she was a victim of. So this eye of Medusa, it has to do with justice, divine justice. Let's just take a moment to breathe into the liberating presence of Uranus and Mars as they cross over this eye, the starry eye in the heavens. Let me just invoke that energy into our call today. If you're watching this now or later, just really inviting the healing potential of this moment to become part of our earthly reality, become part of our heart truth, part of our visionary capacity, part of our Satnam, I am the truth. Wonderful. So open your eyes again. I'm going to talk about a little bit about a book I read about Medusa in a bit, and gives a really different take on her story, which I like. So this blue moon, wow, I'm really feeling the power of it. I wanted to share a little story of a visit that I made kind of unexpectedly, so we weren't going in that direction originally, but we were out on a long walk and noticed this well called the Madron Well in the landscape. And so we decided to walk to it. And Madron means the mother in Cornish, Welsh. I don't know if it's Cornish, but definitely Welsh. It means Madron means the mother. So this is like the mother well. And we were on a long walk, so it took a long time to get there and then to find it. So we were quite tired by the time we got there. And we came up, and there was what seemed like a well there, with all these flags and bits of ribbon. I don't know if they do that in America, but at holy wells here, people often tie stuff up. So we kind of thought we were at the well. Oh, well, we've arrived. Here's the wells, do a little thing on the third eye. And we're just like standing there, and then a local dog walker comes by and he says, you're not actually at the well. The well is about 50 yards further on, but it's very muddy, and the slats that were put down have now sunk into the mud. Plus, it had been raining quite a lot. But, having been told the well's like 50 yards up, of course, we were compelled to see if we could find it. And it was incredibly muddy. And I said something like, oh, I don't know if I want to walk through all this mud. But I was kind of going to anyway. And it's one of these moments where the shadow energy just kind of came in so powerfully. And it was seemingly quite innocuous remark by my partner saying, well, why don't you stay here and I'll go and look for the well, and and then I'll come back to you. And wow, so many different weird things went off inside me at once. One of which is, well, how dare you think I'm not going to reach the well, which I think is quite a Lilith sort of thing, really. And um, and then just the kind of this abandonment fear, like really childlike feeling of being abandoned in a place. And so we did get to the well together, but it was very emotional and tense. And we got back out and we felt like we'd been in this like really strange energy, and something like a horsefly had bitten me on the neck while I was in there. And then I started having a bit of an anaphylactic shock reaction where I couldn't swallow. I was like, it was like my throat chakra went. So yeah, it was all kind of really strange. And when I sort of went into what I was feeling in that moment, where I got to is this kind of gaping Lilith wound. And so Lilith was one of the mythologies of Lilith is that she was the first wife of Adam. And because she wanted to be equal to him, she ran off, she left him, and then he got Eve made from the rib. So Eve is the kind of submissive woman, and Lilith is the sovereign original woman, really. But because of this mythological experience, and so many people around the globe have picked up this mythical story. So whether it's sort of true in the first place doesn't really matter because we've made this myth come alive as humans. So there's this kind of original rejected woman, and she can come out as anger and rage, but also this deep grief of rejection and all of that. So I'm going to show you the chart now for the moon, and you'll see like the synchronicities of it are just absolutely stunning. Okay, let me open the presentation. So the first thing to say is while blue moon happens once a year, it's when there's the month where you have two full moons, basically. But this one is quite unusual because the first full moon happened at 1 degree Capricorn, and this one is happening at 29 degrees Capricorn. And Capricorn has kind of been where Pluto has been traveling through for the last, I don't know, 25 years or something silly. And Pluto's just, you'll see in the chart when I show you, is just making this incursion back into Capricorn for the last time and into Gene Key 60. And so Gene Key 60 is called Divine Justice. So it's quite interesting, this thing about the eye of Medusa and divine justice. And when I've gone into this energy of this divine justice, it always feels to me so much about the masculine and feminine lie at the heart of what divine justice is on some level. Okay, so let's begin with the moon. Ooh, go back. So the moon, the sun and the moon are opposite each other. So that's when you have a full moon, that is when the sun and the moon are opposite each other, and that the new moon, they conjunct each other. So a full moon has an illuminating energy. And if you compare it to the plant cycle, it's the flowering of the moon when it becomes full. And we have the potential to see more in this place of illumination. So you can see here at the bottom that you have the moon is conjunct Pluto. Pluto is back at 0 degrees Aquarius, and it's going retrograde. That's that R there. And so it's going to move back into Capricorn for the final time in September. And Capricorn is all about the structures of the world, like legal structures, financial structures. And so we're seeing an immense shift in the way our world is set up. And I think it's useful, I find it useful to think of this in terms of the cross of planning coming to its closure in 2027. So a lot of our structures in the world are supporting the cross of planning energy. And when it changes to the sleeping phoenix, and it won't happen overnight, it's always like a process that, we're going to see a lot crumble in our world, but also then new things coming about. And I really feel like things like the dream arc are perfect manifestations of the sleeping phoenix energy. So on the Siddhic level, Gene Key 60, where this blue moon is divine justice. And on the other side, we have Gene Key 56, which is the city of intoxication that we mentioned last week, the rose, the perfume of the flowers. And it's very connected with the mouth, actually, this gene key. So if you have anything going on with your mouth right now, it might actually link in with this very powerful energy going on. Okay, so I mentioned the star Algol. We opened with that, and yeah, this is really fascinating. So we have the star Algol, who is linked with Medusa. It's called the Eye of Medusa, but it's also linked with Lilith as well. So it's very got this dark goddess quality about it. And interestingly, adding into that visionary capacity, we have Jupiter in Gemini, 12 Gemini is the star Aldebaran, which is called the Eye of the Bull, and it's one of the 4 Watcher stars. We then also have the North and South nodes have just moved into the South node is in Gene Key 18, the North node in 17. So this is about this omniscient vision opening up. So there's a lot of energy in this about illumination, clarity, being able to see into the heart of a problem or what's going on. Okay, so I thought I'd look where Medusa the asteroid is, and interestingly, she's here in Leo. So we have quite a lot going on in Leo. We have Venus is in Leo, conjunct Vesta, and then we have Medusa there in between at 22 Leo. Then we have Mercury, and Astraea is coming into Virgo there. So we've got the strong Leo creative energy, Venus uniting with Vesta, the priestess, and Medusa. It feels like Venus conjuncting with Medusa and Vesta is a potential for healing of Medusa. So Vesta is the priestess energy, and Medusa was actually a priestess, and she was a priestess in Athena's temple where she was raped, I mentioned before, by Neptune. And she was punished by Athena, even though it wasn't her fault that this, it wasn't her fault that he did that to her. But it started off this whole chain of events where she was cursed with this eye that could kill. So imagine that. Imagine that, having an eye that could kill anyone, anything. This lovely book I was reading really sort of zones in on the struggle Medusa had to have this eye, this awful eye that killed things. And she's also living, she came to live, so she's part Gorgon, part human, Medusa. Um, and oh yeah, and Athena cursed her with the hair as well. So she used to have beautiful hair, and then Athena turned it into serpents. So she came to live with her Gorgon sisters, and Gorgons are like massively ugly female dragony things. And but it's so touching, this book. I've got it on the next slide, the actual name of it, by Natalie Hayes. But it's all about how she kind of makes her sisters, who are Gorgons, more compassionate. And they love her. They want to protect her. She's a strange sister who's turned up from the sea. And so she really transforms the Gorgon sisters. And I think that's another energy of Medusa as a healer. Like potentially she's an incredible healer of the ugliness in the world, the monstrousness in the world. Even though we kind of see her as a monster, she could be the ultimate, or one of the ultimate healers of the monster kind of energy. Okay, so final thing I wanted to share was looking at what's going on with Lilith. So what we can see here is down at the bottom is Pallas Athena is a 20-degree Scorpio, and the asteroid Lilith is conjunct Pallas Athena. So I mentioned in my story that I really felt this wound, this like gaping wound in myself, but in the collective female experience of being extremely deep, extremely profound, which is a Scorpio, is this very deep emotional energy. But something is happening in the universe. And I've always felt this with Lilith, but it feels really intense right now that Lilith is being healed. So these kind of deep rejection issues, fears of being exiled, fears of manifesting our leadership potential, these are all things to do with Lilith, and it feels like they're coming up for healing. And here we have the black moon Lilith is at 4 degrees Libra and is conjunct the south node there. Yeah, so there's this kind of pattern in the chart overall where you can see quite a lot of planetary things happening at the final degrees of signs. So you've got Uranus there, 26 Taurus. We've got Mercury at 26 Leo, Juno at 23 Virgo. We've got Lilith at 25 Scorpio with Pallas just there. And the full moon is at 29 Capricorn. And there we have Neptune at 29 of Pisces. So there's lots of kind of ending energy, and then quite a few of the then there's things happening in the 1st degree. So we've got Mars at 0 degrees Gemini. Well, that's where Sedna is. So that's a really powerful point at the moment, activating Sedna. And Pluto is at 0 Aquarius. Astraea, the goddess of the new golden age, is at 2 degrees Virgo. So I feel a pattern here. And Hygeia is at 2 degrees of Taurus, like the goddess is seeding something new, but at the same time, there's lots of energy of the endings as these big events happening at the end of the zodiac signs. And the final thing that's really fascinating, so Neptune here went all the way to 29 degrees Pisces, 59 minutes. So about to go into Aries and then went retrograde again. So it's like, wow, we were just there. And it's like, no, there's more work to do. And Saturn is also in Pisces. So Saturn is about structure and form in this very watery oceanic energy. So it's kind of weird to imagine, like, what could shape this water? Like, what is shaping the ocean? Well, I guess the moon is one of the things shaping the ocean. And the black moon, Lilith, actually is part of our whole moon structure. So it's kind of really mysterious, like this creation, destruction and creation of new forms. And this is, though, what I feel that Neptune and Saturn are doing. And we're not there yet. So that's what it feels like, you know, this kind of ending energy. And it feels like, I feel like I need more time, you know, because things have just been so like intense emotionally. It feels like more time is needed. And it's so strange, this wound, because I feel it so personally, and yet I know it's collective as well. And it's almost like I'm seeing for the first time, even in myself, how big it is and how intractable it is. But I'm also feeling like it's healing, but I've no idea how to heal it, you know, but something is healing it. It's a kind of a weird feeling I'm having. Okay, so I made this little AI thing. So this is Medusa swimming with piranha fish, which are Gene Key 22 in the Gene Keys, which is this huge kind of transmission of its own. It's really worth reading. Gene Key 22 leads from dishonor to honoring. It's really about learning to honor ourselves as women as the beginning of this journey of healing. And I guess honoring all women as well, because there's not one story of women, is there? So I've mentioned the book already, Stone Blind, Medusa's Story by Natalie Haynes. It's a really fantastic book if you're into Medusa, and yeah, and it brings out this like really compassionate side of Medusa, which I thought was brilliant, because by and large she's just seen as like a rage cold killer with snake hair, you know. But I think she's got a really amazing other side to her. And then I wanted to mention these books, The Lady and the Unicorn, I was reading in France. I've never read this author, Tracy Chevalier, who I think is French. And we actually found this book in a lot of you probably know, like the red phone booths that you see like in London and England, and a lot of them have been abandoned now because of we use phones, and a lot of them have become these like weird little book share places. So people leave their books in there and you can go and take a book and leave your books. And so we came across one before we went to France and found this book called The Lady and the Unicorn. And I've got really into Tracy Chevalier because she's so good at writing about these women issues. So in this first one, it's set in the 15th century in France and Holland around the creation of the unicorn tapestries. A really, really excellent book about women's roles and what the incredible lack of choices that women had in those days. And so on the strength of that book, we ordered another one. It's called A Single Thread. And this one's based in Britain in the 1930s during the Depression. And it's an area I've become interested in a couple of years ago. I felt like the universe was really wanting me to understand something about what's going on with women now that emanates from this time after the wars when there were hardly any men left, at least in Europe. And so there was this real struggle for who was going to get the men. And so this book, A Single Thread, is about a character called Violet, who is this horrible word, a spinster. And yeah, it's kind of really amazing reflection of some of us here have been married, some of us are divorced, some maybe have never been married. But what I feel from all of us here is we are living into be wanting equality with the masculine, wanting enriched relationships, true love, true romance, intimacy, and not just act out the same old patterns that have been acted out historically by our ancestors. And this is our work, really. I see this as our work. I'm going to come out of that for now. And the work is really hard sometimes. I find it that anyway, because it means facing all this shadow material, but then also seeing this big picture of this kind of struggle. So the one kind of really powerful example I wanted to share was a couple of years ago when I got together with my current partner. My mom came out and said something like, "How could any man love a woman like you?" And what she means by that is this kind of wild Lilith thing. So in my birth chart, I have all four Liliths in my first house and on my ascendant. So I am basically Lilith. And the wounds are very like, there they are, you know. And to my mom, who's really trying to, well, she shut down her own wild side, which is why she doesn't like mine, in order to kind of survive, you know, in order to get the husband to live that sort of secure life. And I'm not judging anyone for doing that because I'm also have that side in me that wants that, you know, that wants that kind of security, and home and marriage and children is another issue. You know, there's a couple of us here who haven't been able to have our own children, and that's like a huge thing that comes out in the single thread. It's one of the sort of lines of, you know, how women with children view women who don't have children and vice versa. And in the end, what I feel this is about is this kind of sisterhood of a rose is helping us to see that we are all of these dimensions, you know, whatever life we happen to be in right now, we all have the potential for all of it, really, and to develop like deep self-love is what's going to heal Lilith and Medusa, and so it's up to us to kind of develop the self-love to heal this wound, and it feels huge, and it feels an honor as well to be living at this time in this huge epoch of transition. So that's my take on this blue moon. And yeah, I'm going to actually pause the recording now for the sharings. So if you if you rather than do it this, I'm going to stop, and if you want to be recorded, you can be, but it does go on YouTube, so it's quite open, and it goes on Soul Tribe. So, and if you're watching this on YouTube, you're very welcome to come along and take part in the conversation and where these things affecting you. Okay, so I'm going to stop for now.